Hi, everybody. Welcome back. You know me. I am the freaking fabulous cat Corchado, and this is another segment of Salty Sisters with my cohort in crime, Yvonne Marchese. And we took a little hiatus for a bit, but we're back. If you don't know me, you should. I am a proud military veteran, which prompted me to start the podcast Sisters in Service. And I am also an entrepreneur where I started the small space Pilates, where it's weight training, Pilates, and stretching so that you can get your fitness fabulosity back. So over on to you, Yvonne.
Hello, hello. I'm so excited for today. I am Yvonne Marchese. I am an age agitator, and I do that as the host of the Late Bloomer Living podcast and the Age Agitators Club for women. Age agitating may sound scary, but it's actually a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. I can vouch for that.
I think of it like the agitator setting on the washing machine. We're just shaking things up when we're talking about aging and shaking up beliefs that we're all carrying around. That's what I mean by age agitating. So just to be clear about that. I am so excited for today. I'm excited to have Melissa Davey on. I'm so excited that Dierdre was able to join us, Dierdre Wolownick. Dierdre has been traveling the world, and we weren't sure she was going to be able to join us. So she is our surprise special guest today. We are here to talk about a film that I have been really excited about for at least a year. I think I've been like, when is it coming? When is it coming? And that film is called Climbing into Life. Melissa Davey is the producer, director, mind person behind all of this, the driving force behind the film. But the film is about Dierdre Wolownick, and who is, oh, sorry, say it for me again, Dierdre. Wolownick. I'm sorry. Oh my goodness.
Everybody does that.
Dierdre Wolownick. I'm going to get that in my brain from now on. We are going to talk about Dierdre's amazing accomplishment. Not only once, but twice. She is the oldest woman ever to climb El Capitan. And that is, in the climbing world, a big deal. So, and you started climbing in your 50s. Is that correct? Or close to
60, yeah.
60?
59 and 11, 12.
59. That's what I had in my head. That's awesome. And Melissa, you became a filmmaker at 65, correct?
I did. Yes.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Never too late.
Yep. Never too late.
Never too late. One of the things that I think is incredible is that, Dierdre, you never thought of yourself as an athlete through most of your life, correct?
No, definitely not. I was an academic. I've done a lot of different things, but all of them were, I guess you could call them cerebral. They were definitely not active. So yeah, it was a different phase of my life entirely.
Yeah, fantastic. So I'm hearing some interference.
Me too. I'm hearing other voices
in the background somewhere.
Nope.
Another conversation somewhere.
It's so interesting.
I'm hearing a man talking.
Me too.
Like the news.
Oh, it might be my TV. Oops.
Sorry, folks.
I'll be right back. Hold on, please.
Okay, excellent. Sorry, it was going to keep us a little distracted, I think. So I think the first question that I'd like to ask you two is, how did you find each other in order to even decide to make this film? What was the process like as far as finding each other? What was the process like as far as going, hi, do you want to make a film? I'm assuming you approached Dierdre. Is that right, Melissa?
It's a little funnier than that. I was scrolling through Facebook, and I don't even know where I was, but somebody was talking about Dierdre and, her accomplishment of climbing El Capitan. And I had seen her son's movie, Free Solo, long before that. And I thought, but I didn't know that she was the mother of Alex because it didn't say this in the Facebook thing. And I wrote a note in Facebook that said, wow, this would make a great movie, and under my name is documentary filmmaker. And Dierdre wrote back and said, are you a filmmaker? And I said, yes, I am. And she said, oh, well, we should talk. I think I have a story. So, and this is during COVID. So we started doing regular Zoom interviews online so that we could get to know each other and I could understand what her story was. And it was, after doing several of those that we both said, well, I think we should do this. And Dierdre was like, yeah, I think we should do this.
Yeah.
So it happened in a very odd way. But, at the time that I wrote that note on Facebook, I didn't know that she was the mother of Alex Honnold. That came slightly after that. I didn't remember seeing her in Free Solo because I had seen it quite a while ago.
I was only in it for about 5 seconds.
Right. So it was a very strange way that we came together. And, and I was sitting there thinking about, well, what am I going to do next? And I had been calling people trying to figure out, who has a great story. And Dierdre's just sort of came to me.
Amazing.
Through the universe.
Let's go back in time a minute with your story, Melissa. You were in corporate America for your career, right?
Right. Yes.
And how does one become a documentary filmmaker at the age of 65?
Well, at the age of 65, if you're sitting in a job that you've done for a very long time and you're very comfortable with it, and you're looking at the clock and you realize that, wow, how did I get here? How did this go by so fast? I really started making a list of the things that I really wanted to do. I didn't need to retire. I wasn't being pushed out, but it hit me like a ton of bricks that there were some things that were unfinished in my life that I wanted to do. And filmmaking was a fantasy. It was just a fantasy. And it had been one for many, many decades where I wish I was a filmmaker. Oh, I wish I could be in a film or have some connection to film. And I spent a day on the set with M. Night Shyamalan out of the blue.
You won a lottery, right? To get on the set for that?
Yes. And which is, again, happenstance. And he said,
and you actually hung out with him. As a part of this lottery.
10 hours.
That's crazy.
While he was filming his film. And when we were having lunch together, he asked me what I did for work. I was old enough to be his mother. And I was explaining, and he looked kind of glazed over, and he said, what do you really want to do? I said, oh, I want your job. And he leaned over and he said, well, you better hurry up. And he was kidding, I'm sure. But it hit me like that feeling in your gut that you get. And I was like, he's right. This is fabulous. I want to try to do this. So I quit my job. I gave a year's notice because I ran the division of a large national company. And I needed to mentor somebody to take over. But I gave my notice and I started planning my first film, Beyond 60, which is a film about 9 women over the age of 60 and, their resilience and continued relevance as they age. And again, becoming a filmmaker at 65 didn't mean I was going to write a script. I knew I wasn't trained to do that. So I thought, what is it that I'm most comfortable with? And that is talking to people, hearing their stories, telling their stories. And so it was logical at the time. This is now 9 years ago because I'm about to hit 74. But it was, what's the best thing I could do? Tell women's stories, because we're not out there in the mainstream, and we should be, because of all the experiences that we've had and the experiences that can be shared through story that inspire people to do new things. And that's exactly what Dierdre's film is about, a total inspiration film.
Yes. I mean, what an inspirational story.
Yeah.
So Dierdre, let's go back into your history a little bit. How and what prompted you to decide to start climbing at the age of 59?
A lot of different things, but mostly I wanted to connect with my son a little more. I mean, my son is the most famous climber in the world, Alex Honnold. everybody even remotely connected with climbing knows my son, and they know his movies, they know all the first ascents he's done, and they know his history and all that. And so he would go off on these expeditions. I mean, for years he was doing this, and I knew nothing about climbing. I had too many jobs. My life was a disaster, and I never had a moment to really focus on that. And so there was really nothing between us much, mom and kid, but nothing. We had nothing to talk about. He would tell me where he had been and what they had done, and I didn't understand any of it. And I'm a language person. I speak many languages. I've been a linguist and a professor all my life, and I don't like not understanding what's going on around me. And I wanted to connect better with my son, so I had him take me to a climbing gym, the one here in Sacramento where we live, where I live. He lives all around the world on expeditions all the time, but so he took me. He was injured, so he couldn't climb himself, and so that day I did not learn how to belay someone, how to secure their ropes, but I learned how to climb. And he showed me the ropes, and then I discovered I expected to go there and maybe climb half a wall and just get familiar with all the vocabulary, because climbing has its own jargon. Every sport has its own jargon, but climbing more so than most others, because it's so alien to most people, and they call things by names that nobody else uses, and they, all the terms, the verbs, everything's different. So I just figured I'd go home a little more knowledgeable. We'd be able to talk better, but that's not what happened. I got on the first wall and discovered that I love this stuff. I always loved it when I was a kid, but everybody was always yelling at me, "Get down from there! Get down from there! The boys can see your underpants." Because we had to wear dresses back then. This was a long time ago in New York City. Very, very different life. And so it was screamed out of me. It was yelled out of me. When I was a kid, I wasn't supposed to do that, but I did love it back then, and I still loved it. And then he left on another expedition, so I was on my own. And it took me many months to get up the courage to go back to the climbing gym alone and try to get a handle on what this stuff was, how I could do it. Because, living alone and going to the climbing gym alone, you have to have a partner to climb if you're using ropes. And most people are. My son, that's a different story. But so you have to have a partner, and I didn't. So I went there and I just kind of wandered around looking for groups of odd numbers of people, so that two would be climbing together, up and down, and somebody would be waiting on the ground. And so I started making friends that way, and the rest is just blossomed from there.
Amazing. Kat, did you have any questions at this point?
Now, I have a question for Dierdre. Was El Capitan, is that like the epitome of every climber's goal?
Yeah. El Capitan is the climber's mecca. For the whole world, because it's the biggest, most gorgeous, most everything climbing wall in the world. There are others, that can relate in terms of height and difficulty and so on, but they're far, far more remote, like in Afghanistan or Nepal. But El Cap is accessible and extreme, and so it's every climber's dream to come to Yosemite first and then to climb.
When did you know you were ready for El Capitan?
Well, we have to differentiate the two kinds of climbing too. I mean, I didn't climb it the way my son climbs it. My son led the climb. In other words, he was the first one up. And then he would drop a static rope, which means a rope that has no stretch in it, and I would clip onto that. So my feet were on the rock, but my hands were on these mechanical ascenders that help you go up the ropes. I started at 60. I will never be strong enough to what they call that technical climbing. When your hands and feet are it. That's all you help to go up the rock. I used the mechanical ascenders to help me, because I just, I got these chicken arms. I got no muscles on my shoulders or my back or anything. I started too late for all that to develop. But I'm sorry, I've forgotten your question. But That's
No, you answered it. That's great. You know, it's I don't see myself ever climbing anything other than a wall in a gym, although I'm
yeah.
into the fitness industry.
Mm.
But I think it's amazing that you just latched onto that. Like it spoke to you in such a way that you were able to
Well,
just
that
keep
was
it going.
years. I didn't do that for many years. When I started climbing, I couldn't do anything. I was terrible. And there's definitely a lot of skill involved, and a lot of knowledge involved, and a lot of physics involved, and it's a mind game. Climbing takes place 99% in your mind, and I like that about it. It's a puzzle, and a little bit of body, and and that's all I have is a little bit of body. But that's the one thing I love about climbing. I've tried. I was always active when I was young. You asked Melissa about not sport, athlete material, but I was always active. Roller skating out in the street and ice skating in the winter and riding our bikes and stuff. But this is different. This is totally different. It's a mind game, and the stakes. The stakes are very different in climbing.
This is making me think about the title of the film, Climbing into Life. And you said it's a mind game.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, how did the title get chosen?
Well, I mean, it had about 10 titles in my head. Ended up with that one because when you do see the movie, you hear Dierdre's life story, and you hear all the trials and tribulations that she went through during her lifetime. And this climbing outlet, when she began this, it really took her to her own life. She expanded her life at that time. She was stuck. She'll tell the story of, all of the things that she was doing that weren't necessarily making her that happy, and knowing that she was missing things in life. And when she added the running and the climbing and everything else, she was actually ascending to her new life. So Climbing into Life, we ended up with that as.
I love the title. I love it. And I just want to point out that Dierdre has done a lot of incredible things in her life. She was on my podcast, the Late Bloomer Living podcast, and we had a chance to talk about everything that she has accomplished in her life. I mean, I believe it's 8 languages that you speak, Dierdre. You started an orchestra in your hometown. You raised 2 ultra athletes. You have a publishing company. You have published books, written books. I mean, you are no slouch. And I find it really interesting that just a couple of moments ago, you said your life was a mess. And I feel like there's a lot of people in this world who I'm getting verklempt right now, because I know that you were in a moment in time in your life that felt like a hot mess.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But if somebody else were to look at you, they would be like, holy cannoli, I could never live up to that.
Yeah.
I just want to point that out to anybody who's watching who feels like their life is a mess. Somebody else is looking at you and what you've accomplished and is probably thinking, wow, look at them.
Yeah. Yeah. Perspective is everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But can I just jump in and say there are also people that think about all the things that both of you have accomplished and think, I can't do all that. You know what I mean? They're a little bit,
But that's exactly my point, actually, is that we hold ourselves back. We look at ourselves with judgmental eyes, and don't give ourselves the credit for the power that's truly inside of us. I mean, here's an example, Dierdre. Here you are, this accomplished woman, and I know you didn't think of yourself as an athlete, and you weren't. I mean, you've run multiple marathons, but that wasn't always a thing for you. That started in your 50s as well, correct?
Yeah, I started running when I was 55, and I did my first marathon at 56.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and anybody can. And over the years and years of accomplishing things, like you said, I started an orchestra, not in my hometown, but in Sacramento, and I ran it myself, and I conducted it for 4 years, and I've done many things like that that are unheard, not unheard of. What am I thinking? What's the word I'm looking for? Come on. That are
Well,
that are so out there. People say, "Oh, you can't do that. You don't have the qualifications. You're too old. You're too this. You're too that." All of that comes from the media and the people around us. What, like you said, we see ourselves. No, it's not that we see ourselves that way. Everybody else tells us to see ourselves that way.
That's right.
And if you could just turn that off, put up a filter. Don't listen to them. Don't listen when they say don't start exercising before you talk to your doctor. That's nonsense. You know, if you're 50, you should be taking this drug. That's nonsense. Why do people listen to those things? I don't know. I've never understood it. Even when I was a little kid, I never understood, why people let other people tell them what to be. Let other people tell them how to be. What
Yes.
they can't do. I've
Yeah.
never understood that. And I have my own method, and using my method, anybody can do anything. I used to laugh when my son would say, my son is not impressed by what he does. I mean, he appreciates it, of course, and he loves it, and it's his passion. But to him, it's just life. It's just ordinary, And he would always say that in interviews like that I used to see like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that he would say, well, anybody can do this. And everybody would laugh and giggle too, because they know everybody can't do what he does. But he's right. Anybody can do anything if they approach it the right way. And after all, a whole lifetime of approaching weird, odd things the right way myself, I've whittled it down to a really workable system. And anybody can indeed do anything.
And to add to that, I think that the message in the film isn't that every single person should go out climbing El Capitan. The message is that there are other things that you dream about that you could actually do. If you take baby steps, if you plan it appropriately, if you get the right assistance that you need, no matter what it is, you could do something new.
It really is about baby steps. It really is about and pursuing, you mentioned, Deirdre, that you used to like to skate, that you loved to climb when you were young, and that was shouted out of you. And I think that has happened to so many of us. I am currently obsessed with the idea of living playfully at any age and getting back to the playfulness that we're born. I believe it's our heritage. And our parents and our teachers, they tried to teach us to be,
they teach that out of us. Yes, they teach that out of us.
Yeah, and it's all with good intentions, because it's a big, bad, scary world, and they want us to survive it, right? And so it all gets taught out of us, this sense of playfulness. But if you think about it, here you are going back to something that was joyful to you as a kid. And if everybody could look back into their past and look to see, it may not look like what it looked like when you may not be able to do something you did as a kid, but you might be able to catch an element of it.
Right. The spark. Yeah.
Can I just say that also, as women, we're taught not to brag about ourselves.
Right.
And so when we think back, of all the things that we did, we're always going to the next thing. But if we all look back, all of us, and we realize there were places in our life that were so hard to get through, but yet we're here now talking about it. That in and of itself, we should all have capes. I'm just going to say, we should all be wearing capes, because, but we're so used to not, it's really nothing. No, it's not,
Exactly.
And so whenever I say I'm the freaking fabulous Cat Corchado, it's not to brag. It's to say, I did all of that stuff back there so that I can be here now. So I just wanted to say that.
And you claiming your freaking fabulosity gives other people the example to be able to claim it as well. I'm just going to say, Kat sent me this cup.
I love that.
I mean, because that's part of her mission. It's not just her bragging. It's her claiming it. I mean, she was made to claim it. She said it on a whim one day, and our business coach was like, every time after that, she was like, Kat, I'm waiting for it. And Kat had to learn how to claim that phrase,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
she's now sharing it with other people. She, you know, it's a mission now.
We're not supposed to. We're not supposed to. That's
Right.
media.
Yeah.
That.
So what I want to know some of the nitty gritty behind the scenes stuff on the making of the film. Were there challenges that you guys had to overcome to get this thing made?
Getting up the rock, right? Right.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Getting it wet. Okay. I didn't hear it.
Getting up the rock to film.
To film her, I did. I filmed her in 3 different locations. One at El Cap in Yosemite, and around Yosemite, and then in her home, and then at the Rock Gym in Sacramento, West Sac, or I guess it's Sacramento. But the day that we went out to watch Dierdre do some climbing in El Capitan, at El Capitan, we had to walk in behind her to get there, with the cameras and the people and all this stuff. And I don't know whether it was Dierdre, whether you said this or somebody, Rachel said, "Oh yeah, it's just a little short walk."
Yeah.
No big deal, right?
No big deal, right?
Okay. So, and at the time I was suffering from anemia and didn't know it. But anyway, so I took my anemic self and I started following everybody. And I realized, we're going up. We're not just going across. We're going up and climbing over boulders. And it was very, very challenging because we had to go up about 1,000 feet to get to just where she started climbing.
Oh my goodness.
And so I, an hour later, I'm completely out of breath and I'm carrying a backpack and, we're all just like, "Oh my gosh, you're kidding." So is this the climb?
Cameras and gear, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So by the time we got there, I was completely out of breath. I had to stop many times, but it just amazed me that when you think about, they go over to the mountain there and they just start climbing. No. You have to climb up 1,000 feet just to get to the base of where they start climbing. Right. So I was trying to figure out, and I watched, Dierdre was way ahead of me because she has done this many times. And I saw her struggling and I thought, well, how the heck is she going to have the reserve, to climb once we get up to wherever it is we're going? So, that was a struggle for me.
That's an issue for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that needs to be built into the whole story of you don't just show up at the bottom of the rock and there it is.
You don't belay from your car. No.
Right. There's some major physical activity going on before you even start climbing. Right. So I was in awe when she then strapped everything together and, got on the ropes and started climbing. And I was sitting on a large rock underneath her, just breathing heavily, So yeah, that was probably the biggest struggle that I had.
Yeah, sometimes the approach is the hardest part of any.
Yeah,
sure. Amazing. It also occurs to. Oh, sorry. Who did I interrupt?
I'm just going to add to your story. I've done approaches of up to 7 miles like that. Yeah. 7.5 miles of 100% effort, full out effort to get to the climb. Then you start climbing.
Right.
Holy cannoli.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And what's funny is she says, it's just a short walk. It just goes to show you that what's just a short walk to one person for somebody else is like their Mount Everest,
But what it did for me is when I got back and I, went to the doctor because I'm like, I can't even go up these boulders. What the heck? So got the anemia under control. And then I joined the gym, and I faithfully since then have been going to the gym 4 or 5 days a week.
Are you going to a climbing gym?
No, not yet, Dierdre. But as soon as I get my stamina up, I am at least going to try that. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I think we may need a climbing party with Dierdre.
There you go.
Speaking of parties, I mean, this was a celebration. This second time that you climbed El Capitan, that's what got filmed for this film, right? And the first time you did it with Alex leading you up, and this second time was actually a celebration of your 70th birthday with climbing friends, correct?
Right. When I went up with Alex in 17 or 18, 17, 2017, Alex holds speed records on everything that he climbs. He's really, really fast. He's extraordinarily fast in everything, but especially in climbing. So when I talked about doing this with him, he said, yeah, oh yeah, no problem. We'll do it in a day. Well, I didn't know if I had known back then what I know now, I probably wouldn't have gone, because nobody does it in a day. The elite climbers who climb the route that we climbed take 4 or 5 days usually. And so fortunately I didn't know that. So when I climbed it with Alex, I didn't see anything. Well, by the time we got to the top, it was pitch dark. So I didn't see the summit. And we came down for 6 hours. We came down in the pitch dark. And so I didn't get to sleep up there, and I didn't get to see it. So all I saw was, the cone of my headlamp by the time we got up to the top. So I wanted to know what it was like to sleep up there, see the sunset from up there. And I wanted to know all the terrain visually, And so I decided to do that because it was still COVID when I was going to turn 70. I couldn't have people over to my house, COVID. I couldn't go to a restaurant, COVID. So I wanted to find, and my foot had been ripped apart and put back together with a lot of metal, and a lot of sawing was involved. And so there was a lot I could not do anymore. And my foot didn't, my toes don't bend anymore. My this doesn't, this and this doesn't, all kinds of parts are going, I'm 70. So I decided to find out if I could still do it. And I gathered a group of young'uns and old ones and, all friends who could help, friends who wanted to experience it, other older women, not as old as me, but, friends from all over the country. And I trained like the Dickens. First time I did it with Alex, I trained for 18 weeks, 3 days a week, 18 weeks. Because I've been a college teacher most of my life. And so I know that in one semester, 18 weeks, you can master a little bit of anything, whatever you want to take. You want to learn how to be a firefighter, you want to learn how to be a nurse, you want to speak French, whatever. You can do it in 18 weeks. So I gave myself 18 weeks. Second time around, I already knew how to do all that stuff. I knew the route, I knew the equipment. I gave myself 15 weeks, and I trained with Garrett, one of my young'uns who was my prime training partner, and he's a climber and a climbing guide, and
he was also the videographer for the climb.
Right.
I was wondering who handled
I
the
didn't
camera
do
for
it.
that, right? No. Okay, so you have brought up something that I'm very excited about, which is the idea of these intergenerational connections. Getting help from younger people, the relationship of younger people with older people, and what's to be had in that. And I know that that's probably also the case for you, Melissa, as a filmmaker. You brought in, especially for your first film, right? You brought in people who knew how to make films. Can you speak to that a little bit as a filmmaker? And maybe we'll circle back to Dierdre.
When I decided to try to make a film, I made a list of all the things I didn't know. And it was a pretty long list because it was something I had never even approached before. But there were logical, obvious things that I needed to find out about. So I just reached out to the Philadelphia area film community, starting to, make connections with people who do filming and whatnot, and ended up in a partnership with, at the time, Expressway Productions. They've changed their name to Format. And they were there to teach me and afford me the opportunity to understand what cameras do I need? What about sound? What about, all the logistics I learned through them. And I would tell you at that time, and this is a while ago now, their average age was probably about 29 years old. And I was 65 at the time. So, and coming to them, and most of them in the company were young men. There were women as well, and I brought them onto the team. But it was remarkable to learn from this younger generation and to feel absolutely no angst from them because they were working with this older woman that was asking them questions. So it became this wonderful partnership. And now with Dierdre's film, same thing. I'm working with editors in their 30s, and we're like a team, and They learn a little bit about older women from
Right.
me, and
Right.
I learn about process from them and ideas. And it's
and
great.
they learn about themselves. Yeah, they learn about themselves too.
Exactly. And
But
they
isn't that the
also,
way it should be, though? That we're
yes,
learning from each other.
Yes.
and they are able to then say, oh, wow. So they look at me and say, wow, you're in your mid 70s and you're still doing all this new stuff. It
Yeah.
gives them inspiration and hope for
Yeah.
their own future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. The younger people need the modeling.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, if I think about what my ideas of an older person were when I was young,
Correct.
it
Very
was
Yeah.
very negative, and it's part of what held me back when I was in my 40s and I
Yeah.
started to look in the mirror and go, who the heck is that? Who's that old lady looking back at me? And I really felt like my opportunities were over. I felt like it
Yeah.
I felt like it was all downhill. And I've always been more afraid of aging than I have been of dying. And I've always known that, but I didn't realize how that was holding me, or that how that could hold me back from living my best life as I got older.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Amazing.
When I was a kid, everybody in their 70s died.
Yes. And seemed very old.
Uncle 70 was very old. Yeah.
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 Not anymore.
No. Look at us.
Ah,
Still going strong.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that the films that you're doing are highlighting women
Yeah.
of an age, Melissa, who
Yeah.
are somebody for people to look at and go, oh,
Maybe I could
maybe
do
there's
that.
more
Maybe.
for me.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very
Right.
important. I mean, there
Yeah.
just aren't enough. I mean, the film industry is starting to change just a little bit, and you will see high-level celebrities like Jane Fonda, people like that, are now in comedic movies or drama movies, and there are more of them coming.
Yeah.
But they are the people that you always saw on the screen anyway, and they have some Hollywood cachet, so people will follow. But my goal is to take everyday women like all of us and just say, look at what we're all doing.
Yeah.
Look at what you're doing. All of us,
Yeah.
all 4 of these squares today
Yeah.
are doing something remarkable, and they're not 20 years old.
A new
So,
model. New model.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So there are millions of stories out there.
Right.
And the more individuals that I speak to, the more I feel compelled to, oh, well, I have to bring that one forward, or this one forward. There's too many stories.
You're going to
So
be
I'm
very busy in your 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
It's incredible. I totally feel you, Melissa, because I've got the podcast. I've been doing it for 4 years. You were one of the original people that was on my guest wish list when I started doing research for women who were doing incredible things. And I look at it and I've like, okay, so I'm at 186 episodes in. That's 180. Some of them have been solo episodes. So maybe 180 people's stories I've told. It's not enough.
Right.
It's not enough. Like how I do it once a week and it's all I can keep up with. But there are so many stories that are still out there that I know that I want to tell. And isn't it amazing that there's that many people to pull from and find stories for?
Yeah, it's just wonderful. So hopefully I can continue to do this and maybe encourage some other filmmakers that are already established filmmakers to start paying attention to older women's stories.
Yes. And I will say, I make sure to watch any films that highlight older women, that that have, anything that Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin are doing, and because I want the numbers I want to be counted in the numbers of people so that they see that there is an audience for this. And so I just want to encourage anybody listening to go watch something and be counted and let the higher powers know that there's an audience that wants this.
Yes.
Really
important.
Yeah.
Can I just say that I think that the more people that see us doing what we're doing, and there's many of us out there, that even if you haven't started, just start with one thing.
Yeah.
Because that one thing leads to another thing and then another thing. And then before you know it, you're like, wow, look at what I'm doing. And then other people are reaching out to you. So it just takes one step, one small step towards whatever that thing is for you, because look how freaking fabulous we are. I'm just gonna say.
I love it. I'll say for me that for me it was changing my morning routine started a snowball of events in my life. I realized that I had been pressing the snooze button every morning, not wanting to get up and start the day. And when I had the aha that that wasn't serving me, I set my alarm across the room and I got up an hour earlier every day. And I'll tell you, that was hard because I am not a morning person. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a 30-day experiment and just get up and meditate and move my body and see what difference that makes. And once I started doing it, I started feeling so much better within like a couple of weeks. I started getting hopeful because I was approaching 50 at that point. And through my whole decade in my 40s, I had not felt good. And suddenly I was like, I feel better now than I've felt in years. And it started to change the way I was thinking about my next 20 or 30 years and what I saw as possible. And that's when I got the idea for the podcast, and starting the podcast has completely changed my life. I'm talking to you guys. I know Kat because of that. I wrote a book. I never wanted to write a book. That was never in the plan. It's like one little thing can be the thing that gets you started.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And people need to really kind of take stock of their life. And I encourage women all the time to make lists of all the things that they wish they had tried and all the things that they thought they couldn't do. And then just focus on one. If it really interests you, it could be something simple like picking up a paintbrush or trying to play an instrument, or something that might take a little while to learn, but just to start. And to remember why it excited you, to think about why did you put it on your list. And the other one is take detours. Everybody needs to open their eyes and broaden their horizons and stop doing what they do every single day the same way. Take a detour, go a different road, try a different restaurant. You're going to meet different people. You're going to see something that could potentially change your life. So it's really just opening your eyes and yourself to other possibilities. And that is so exhilarating when you start realizing there are other possibilities. And I think I'll try one.
So many. Yeah.
Wasn't it a detour that you were on with a friend, Melissa? And as you're driving around, you both looked over and saw this movie being made and you got curious and you were like, that looks like a pretty if I remember right, you said to your friend, you want to tell the story?
Yeah. I mean, I left a Washington, D.C. congressional meeting in a huff because it was like deja vu, like Groundhog Day. I'd been going there for 20 years and nothing changed. And I was 65 and I was sitting there thinking, what the heck am I doing? This is so boring. So I left early and I didn't go back to work. I took a detour. And I went and found a friend and she said, come with me to pick up my daughter at school. And we're going to drop her off at the horse barn where she worked after school. So we did that. And that's when we saw a film being made. And coming back down after dropping her off, I said, I bet I know who it is. And, she was like, well, how the heck could you know? And I said, look, we're in Chester County, Pennsylvania. It's got to be M. Night Shyamalan because he lives here and he always films in the area. So I went on, my iPhone and up came his website and there was a picture of where we were sitting. So he had a picture. And I remember thinking, wow, I guess I was right.
Yeah. And that led you to the lottery, right?
Well, it was a charity buzz. He was trying to raise money for his education foundation. So I hit the button and it said, win a day on the set with M. Night Shyamalan. So, my friend was like, you got to do this. And so I reluctantly thought, all right. So I started bidding and then I got excited because I thought, I wonder what it would be like you know, always having a dream of doing film. What would it be like to spend a day on the set with him? Short story. I ended up on the set with him for 10 hours. And that was really the impetus that really pushed me into saying the next day, I'm going to be a filmmaker. And that's what I said out loud. And I knew then that I had made a commitment, and I'd said it to my husband and I'd said it to my boss the next morning. So I thought, well, now I have to do it. So now I've got to figure out how I'm going to do this, because I said it and I was excited. I was very,
There's huge
very
power
Does
in
that-
outing yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that filmmaker know this story?
Yeah, he knows. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he knows. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, but again, if I had gone back to work, or if I had stayed at that ridiculous meeting,
Right.
that never would have happened.
Right.
So it is taking that detour and that it's like a bizarre example of the extreme of what could happen when you take an actual detour up a dirt road, you know, and you end up being a filmmaker. So yes, I would tell everybody, take every detour you can. I still do it today, always looking for something.
You ever read Robert Frost?
Yes.
The Road
Yes.
Not Taken.
Yes.
The Road Not Taken is
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So
I think it boils down to not having any regrets, you know, and the passing of time, you know, really can light a fire under your bottom. And that's what prompted me. I wanted to be able to say, I did all these things. I wasn't scared to do it, but, you know, I didn't want to come to the end of my life. And I said, oh, I wish I had
exactly
done this.
Or even if you are scared to do it, and do it anyway. That's
right.
better. Yeah.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
Every choice, every time I have made a decision like that and moved through the fear of it, it has made a huge difference in my life. Like I grew up with dreams of moving from West Texas. I grew up in West Texas and always wanted to live in New York City. I wanted to be an actress from the time I was 6 or 7 years old. And it was just a dream to move to New York and do that and do theater. And I was in my mid 20s and I was already married, too young, out of college, and living in Denver, Colorado. And I couldn't let go of this image of myself doing the thing that I'd always wanted to do, but I was terrified. You know, there was a lot at stake.
Yeah.
And by the time I finally made the move, ended up divorcing, and then saved for a year, worked overtime, sold everything I owned, and moved across the country to New York by myself. And I didn't know anybody. It was scary.
Yeah.
But the thing that drove me is exactly what Kat's talking about. I was like, well, this is a funny image. If I'm 80 and in a rocking chair, which was my image of being 80, right? If I'm 80 and in my rocking chair, am I going to be disappointed in myself that I never took the chance to do this? And that pushed me forward. And every time I ask myself a question from that kind of point of view, I'm no longer putting the rocking chair in the picture these days. If I can, I'm not going to put the image there as a given. Let's just say, you know, it makes a big difference, I think, to ask yourself these questions.
Yeah.
A good way to get started on that path of asking is to keep a journal.
Yeah.
Exploring yourself in a journal can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
But, you know, you talked about fear. It's anything that we do. I don't care how simple it is. If it's new and we haven't done it before, there's a level of fear there.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
every time you get through the fear, you look back and you go, well, oh, for heaven's sakes, why was I feeling like that? That wasn't that bad. You know, and Dierdre does that. Well, you know, she did that with climbing.
Yeah. Heck
You
yeah.
know.
And that's what fuels you to do the next thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know you're not going to die from fear. You know it.
The
And
first
also Right. And know that you're going to fail. You're going to fail.
Right.
Because like if you can embrace the idea of being a beginner and know that as a beginner, you're not going to be good at the thing when you first start.
Absolutely.
You're going to come up against it and go, dang, that didn't work the way I wanted it to.
Like any first grader.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. The first time they took me outdoor climbing and we went up this monolith, I was terrible. And I got to the first ledge and you stop at the ledge and regroup and change all the gear, and then you keep going up. I was absolutely terrified. I mean, tears were pouring down. I was looking at the little ants down at the bottom, the people on the path, I was absolutely terrified, but I knew I had the same choice everybody has every day. You can succumb to the fear, or you can say, okay, all the people around me don't feel that. The people who already know, they don't feel this. So clearly this is just a perceived fear. It's not a real fear. I'm not in danger. I'm not tied onto the rope. I'm not going to fall. I can talk myself out of it. And we have that choice every day of our lives.
We do. We do.
I'm here. I'm talking on mute. I'm looking at the time going, I want like another hour.
Yeah.
Because this has been amazing conversation. Let me just ask this before we go. First of all, I was going to do we have time for the spinny wheel? I forgot all about it.
Too much to explore here. Too much to explore.
I know. It probably would take us afield. I was going to ask you guys a couple of questions, but I do want to ask where people can find the film at this point. Is it out in the world yet?
No, it's not. Okay. And the patience, I know everybody has impatience around it, but this is the way the process works. It has been submitted to a large number of film festivals around the world. So we're now waiting to hear which one of those film festivals it will get into. And the reason that you don't distribute before the film festivals is because they won't take films that have already been distributed. And there are all these rules about, when you can show it and who you can show it to. And so I'm waiting to see if we get into a number of them. And most of them are in the fall. There's a couple, and I think there are a couple late summer, but into the fall and through the end of the year. And then once you're in some of those, then you start looking for distribution. And then my gut feeling is it will land on many of the streaming channels. So I just ask people to follow us on Facebook, Climbing into Life, Instagram, wherever you might be looking for us. And it will give updates as to when there will be screenings, etc. There might be some private screenings during the film festival circuit. Like if I get out into California, Dierdre has a lot of climbing buddies that really want to see this. So there is a possibility for me to do an unpaid screening event with people that way. So hopefully I'll get out there fairly soon and be able to do that. But
that's exciting. Are you going to be applying to the New York Documentary Film Festival? I think is what it's called. I've been to it before.
There are a few of them there, and it's
all happening around New York. You're going to let me know in advance so I can make sure I get my ducks in a row, right?
And they're all on a special calendar, so you can submit now for the ones that will be open in the fall. Some are already closed, but yeah, we have some New York activity. So my fingers are crossed.
I do want to say, in the meantime, people can go watch Beyond 60.
Yes,
right?
They can. Beyond
Which is
60.
Also super inspiring. And where is that streaming these days?
That's streaming on Prime Video, Apple TV, Google TV, YouTube, Vimeo, Vudu. It's all over the place. So you just go to the search bar and write in Beyond 60 SIXTY. And you can find that streaming.
Yeah, definitely go check that out, folks. And also, I'm just going to say, I will be posting the replay of this to YouTube. So anybody who's listening right now, I will put a couple of links up because both Dierdre and Melissa have been guests on my podcast. And you can go back and listen to those older episodes from the vault and learn a little bit more about each of their stories there. And My goodness. I'm so excited for this to come out. I kind of can't, I'm
I know.
chomping at the bit, Melissa. You must be dying.
I am. I want it out. I want it out there. Yeah.
Wow. Any last thoughts, Miss Cat Corchado, my salty sister?
No, this has been an inspiring conversation. It just makes me feel like I've been following my gut instinct, and your gut instinct is always right. And I'm proud to have met both of you.
Oh, it's great to meet you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us. Appreciate
oh my gosh.
it.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. And I'm verklempt. I have nothing else to say.
You need to come out to California. I'll show you the ropes.
Oh my gosh, I would
Be
love
ready
that.
for that hike up to the
Right? I'd have to get train to go train, right? Actually, I think Dierdre and I have talked about this before, and she definitely recommended that we're going to start in a gym, right, Dierdre?
Okay. The nice soft floor and color coded.
Baby steps.
and you walk into a flat surface at the gym. I could do that easily.
Right.
So.
Right. Next time I come east, Melissa, we'll have to go to a
Okay. All right.
All right, let's all meet up.
So
what do you think, Kat? It'll be in a gym. You'll come, Kat.
I'll do a gym.
Yeah.
I will do a gym
Awesome.
in a heartbeat. Yes, I would.
Awesome.
I'd at least try it.
Last week I spoke at the big climbing gym in Los Angeles, Cinder. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It was a lot of fun. Another story for another day.
Oh my goodness. Thank you again. Kat, I can't remember the date of our next Salty Sisters. I think it's in June. I think
it might be.
We'll be back.
We'll be back. We'll let you guys know for sure.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Yeah. Everyone who's been listening, thank you. This was a great conversation. We're going to come back with some more stuff for you. So stay tuned because the Salty Sisters are coming in hot. So until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.